Access to credit is crucial for the growth, development and survival of small and medium-sized enterprises. However, access to credit is still a challenge to most SMEs, especially in developing economies like Nigeria. The very demand and requirements of borrowing in addition to the bureaucratic lending procedures by the formal financial institutions, coupled with the very high rate of lending, are major challenges to credit. This has led most SMEs to resort to informal financial institutions such as savings and loans companies, traditional money lenders, and informal cooperatives such as Isusu, Friends and Relations. This issue remains key and continues to dominate discussions both within business circles and at the corridor of various governments, with governments at different levels making efforts towards bridging this gap through various funding programs and initiatives. Business Trends today seeks to look into some of these government intervention programs and packages in providing adequate funding to small and medium businesses and how to take full advantage of these opportunities for businesses to grow. On this segment, we seek to look into the issues surrounding financing of small and medium enterprises. And we have in the studio a passionate entrepreneur. She is actually an accountant by training and an entrepreneurial management specialist who loves to mentor young people to succeed in their various business lines. She is Esesua Adeyemi. Before we go into discussion, let's see what's trending in the business circle. And don't forget, this program is brought to you courtesy Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria. The program is Business Trends on NTA Channel 5 Abuja, and I am Shikeola Ikpenaye.
Brother, what's happening? You're not looking so good.
Life after school has been very difficult. Honestly, see, I can't even take care of myself. Look, I can't even shave. I'm so confused right now. I set up a furniture business and it collapsed. I'm beginning to think someone is after me. It could be from the village.
I don't think anybody's after you. You see, business sometimes just need guidance and mentoring. See, have you heard of this agency called Smedan?
No, not at all.
See, Smedan is a government agency that specializes in giving business training to micro, small, medium level business owners.
Wow, John, hold on.
Smedan trains you, create market for you, to link you with suppliers of raw materials to manufacturers and producers to consumers. Smedan facilitates agricultural commodity exchange and even promote Nigerian-made goods abroad and here in Nigeria. Smedan connects young entrepreneurs like you to financial sources so they can have access to loan.
John, I want to be like you. Take me to Smedan right now. Let's go.
Wait,
where's the way?
is this way?
Let's go.
Smedan is located at number 35 Port Harcourt Crescent off Gimbia Street, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. It also has offices in each capital of the 36 states of the Federation, or visit www.smedan.gov.ng. This message is brought to you by the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, Smedan.
Now here are trending issues in the business world. President Muhammadu Buhari has signed into law the 2018 appropriation bill, bringing to a close several months of delays in the promulgation of the nation's financial estimates. President Buhari had at November last year laid the 2018 appropriation bill before the joint session of the National Assembly, but was not passed by the National Assembly until May 16, 2018, and since awaiting presidential assent. The president had presented an 8.6 trillion naira budget proposal to the legislators, which they increased by additional 508 billion naira to 9.1 trillion naira. Signing the budget, the president raised concern over significant reduction in budgetary allocations made for critical projects and some provisions made to others, contrary to the philosophy and direction of his administration. Here are other trending issues in the week. And from Smedan Corner, more investment opportunities await industrialists with plans underway to revive the 23 industrial development centers in the country. This came to the fore during the one-day stakeholders meeting organized by the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, Smedan, in Abuja. Ayen Najaye Alta was at the workshop. The Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, Smedan, second stakeholders meeting featured the study of the viability of 23 industrial development centers in various parts of the country, which are not fully functional, with the aim of converting them into industrial clusters. Consultants were invited to present a business case draft report for the 6 identified clusters in Sokoto, Maiduguri, Abuja, Port Harcourt and Lagos. Representative of the Director General Smedan, Umarudi Korada, says Africa Development Bank is the major partner of this project, but Smedan will enter into public-private partnership with stakeholders and government at all levels to achieve success in this area.
What the report is going to tell us exactly how to put the 23 industrial development centers to use, to best use. The IDCs are being proposed as cluster parks for SMEs. And you know that one of the major problems of SME in Nigeria is workspace. So they are going to provide workspace, and it's going to be run in a coordinated manner.
It is intended that with this report, we will now have what can be presented to potential investors for the purpose of converting these centers to industrial clusters for the benefits of MSMEs. Essentially, it is to ensure that we have a structure whereby a critical mass of the MSMEs coexist in one location.
23 of them are all around the country, and most of them are occupied by rodents. Some of them are dilapidated, some of them are underutilized. We cannot afford underutilized capacity in Nigeria anymore. So the idea of doing a viability study, which was financed by African Development Bank to the tune of about 185 million naira, is to gather information on how to commercialize them.
Those are trending issues now. The program will continue. Welcome to the Discuss segment of the program, and I have in the house a serial entrepreneur. She is Esesua Henrietta Adeyemi. She runs a firm called Just Ask Ceci. It's a management consultancy firm, and she's into publicity, mentorship, coaching, and building business plans for businesses to grow, especially small and medium businesses. Madam, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And if I may ask, can I know how Just Ask Ceci comes to be?
Every time friends will always, when they're looking for something or they want some form of information, you will just ask, you'll hear them just say, okay, why not ask Ceci? Why not ask Ceci? Why not ask Ceci? So I'm in this hub of women, and this day we were having, it's called the Incubators, and we were having a discussion with a friend of mine, and she was like, why is it that everybody's always asking you for where can we get services, or where can we get products, or where can we get information? Have you ever thought of making money from this process? And we sat down together, and honestly, that was how the business Just Ask Ceci began. So basically what Just Ask Ceci does is that we help small enterprises, small medium enterprises, put their products and services out there. We advertise for them. People call us and ask. So for instance, someone asks us that where can we get very good, maybe snails, for instance. We have a directory of businesses where we can refer them to, and that was just how Just Ask Ceci started.
That's interesting. Okay, we're talking about SME financing here as a mentor, and of course someone that coaches people in small and medium enterprises. What is SME financing?
A lot of SMEs are always straitjacketed to believe that SME financing it's only about loans. But financing is the different types of ways you can finance an SME. One of the most common usually from people's personal savings, or you finance an SME from family and friends. You could ask for a loan, which some people usually do. You could, times are changing now, so you have venture capitalists who also would come up, and decide to say, okay, you know what, we like your business idea, we want to put in money into your business. You have angel investors. So there are quite a lot of different ways SMEs can finance their businesses, even selling personal effects. So take, for instance, somebody loves maybe gold and has a lot of gold, a woman has a lot of gold, and she decides she wants to start a business. A form of raising finance is actually selling, assets to raise money to. So when you're talking about SME financing, it's beyond asking for loans from a bank.
Okay, what about on the part of government?
Now, what the government does is usually they give out grants. So before we started Just Access, we still have a company we run called CC's Home and After School Hours, and I can say we were one of those companies who were able to get financed by the government. Our business won the UN grant. Now, most people then, I remember, always thought that you had to know somebody before you could win a government grant, but it's not true. All they're looking for are just viable businesses and good business plans that show that, this is a business that can grow. So you have the GEM project also, there are quite a lot of grants out there that the government is giving. But one thing I've noticed that a lot of SMEs are not looking out for this information. And even sometimes when they even know about the information, a lot of them really don't want to go through the rigor of, writing the plans, putting up a concept note so that they can win these grants. And so that's why you hear people always saying, what's the government doing, what's the government doing? But let's cut the government some slack. They actually are trying in their own little way.
Okay. And how important is credit facilities to SMEs, like on the part of government now, like such grants that you spoke about?
It's very, very, very important, especially for businesses that are already started, because you find out that there's sometimes when businesses need to grow, and so they're looking for working capital. So take, for instance, now a company maybe started production, let's use a bakery for instance, and they're producing maybe 1,000 loaves of bread. And they've now been able to create visibility, and they need to increase maybe 10,000 loaves of bread. Then you see that there's now the possibility that there's now the need for them to grow from the capacity of 1,000 loaves to 10,000 loaves. So that's when you now start seeing certain businesses you understand now looking for this kind of credit to say, what can the government do for us to ensure that our business can now grow, to buy more, equipment so that they now have the capacity to build from 1,000 to 10,000 loaves. Like I said, the government in their own way, you have the BOI. You have different parastatals that are coming up with, they have different programs. But the thing is, like I've said, SMEs need to be knowledgeable, and they need to know what are the things they need to have or they need to do that will make them viable to get these facilities.
In your own assessment, will you say that the Nigerian government is doing enough in terms of credit facilities to SMEs, whether in form of grants, loans, and what have you?
I think to a certain level they are doing at least they started doing something, so we should commend them for what they're doing. But one of the reasons, because we coach and mentor SMEs, so we get to hear a lot of complaints from SMEs, and most times you always hear people say they don't give us, we don't get, it's who they know. And most times people don't really know how to package their businesses to make it viable, to make it attractive. Now, I always tell businesses one thing, that you can never pay back capital. So let's take, for instance, now we want to start our own business, and I come to you and I say, okay, you know what, I want to start a business, can you please give me money? There's no interest, you're giving me the money free, but would you be comfortable giving me your money without being sure that I'm going to use your money properly? You would want some form of assurance, and most times, most of these grants, what they just want is the business plan, to see the cash flow, to see the financials, to know that yes, as in when I give you this money, you're not just going to use it to marry a second wife, or you're going to go on one holiday, so. But most times people don't really, like I said, they don't really want to go through the process of ensuring that the business ideas are down on paper and it's viable for whoever wants to give them money. So I'm not a government official, so nobody will now maybe be saying, oh, because I'm a government official, so I'm supporting. But as a business that has enjoyed from certain government grants without knowing anybody and just putting out our own business plan there and winning, I can say, okay, let's just cut them some slack and say that at least they're trying.
Now, can you share some of the available facilities out there that SMEs can tap into? Because just as you said,
yes,
most people don't even know that some of these facilities are available, or some of these windows are available.
Yes, so for instance, now we have the CBN loan. BOI gives facilities as well. That's the Bank of Industry. You have some private organizations as well that come up and give out grants as well. One thing I always tell people is, for me, that's always been my best friend, Google. Because sometimes you might not be privy to get first-hand information, but once you just Google, and you, for instance, okay, what are the facilities available from government, you'll be amazed on the amount of information that is online as well. So I always tell people, have a thirst for information, go online, search, read the newspapers, listen to news. A lot of us now have stopped listening to news or even reading the newspapers, and all of that. There should be that zeal as an entrepreneur to always want to know what's happening.
Are there special facilities or windows for women in business?
Now, a lot of them, my male counterparts in business always complain because there are really a lot of opportunities for women. A lot of even the commercial banks have certain concessions for women. So if the interest rate is a certain amount for men, they kind of reduce it for women. So women have been encouraged a whole lot, to ensure that the burden is not so much on them. So women have concessions, yes.
So why are women not really taking advantage of these concessions?
I remember there was a particular interview I was on, and I mentioned the word that a lot of people are really lazy, and some people go angry that why would I say that? But working with quite a lot of people, I've just realized that honestly, people really, they know about these things. I'll give you an instance now. I told you that we work on business plans. So what we do as a company is when we know that a particular grant is coming up, we put up adverts and we say, okay, you know what, this grant is available, apply. And we'll be telling people, apply. Sometimes it might be maybe 1 week to the deadline. Then you now start seeing them rushing. Now you want your business plan to be viable. How do you want to do that in 1 week? Or sometimes you meet people and they was like, you know what, just do the plan for me. I don't know your business. You understand? You have to tell me about your business. And they're like, you know what, I don't have the... So it's 50-50. If you want something, you have to work for it, as well. So there are times people know about these things, but it's just getting themselves together to say, you know what, I would sit down and write this plan, or I would sit down and go in for this competition.
Okay, you place so much emphasis on writing convincing business plans to be able to attract a grant or loan,
investors, yes.
or investors,
Yes.
or investment or finance into your business. So what are the tips? Can you just give us some tips that when writing a business plan,
Yes.
one should, consider?
One of the key things investors always look out for is usually the financials, because they want to see the cash flow. They want to see that, okay, what's the return on investment? If I give this person XYZ amount, what's going to be the return on investment on this money given? Is this business viable? And most times it's usually the cash flow statement that will let you know if the business is viable, because that way you're seeing what is coming into the business after you've invested money. A lot of people shy away from figures. They feel it's a lot of work, but the truth about it is that any investor would really want to know your financials. Most businesses or business owners tend to want to provide products and services that they think they like, rather than selling something that somebody else wants. So when they're putting down their business idea, it's more of what they want, rather than what do your customers want.
Now you spoke about financial flows, that the financial cash flows,
yes.
that is very important in
Yes.
writing business plan. What if the cash is not there? The finance is not there, yet you have the idea, you have the passion to run with that idea. What do you do?
Normally, what cash flows are a cash flow statement describes how your cash is going to come into the business. So most times when you're about to start your business, the cash is not actually there.
Okay.
It's a projection.
Okay.
You're saying that, okay, by the time I start this business, in the first 1 month, I'm producing 100 products, and I'm selling my 100 products at 5 naira. So your cash flow is what are you projecting that would come in? What are you projecting that will go out? So at the end of the month, you now have a net cash flow. So it's not really money that comes in. You're projecting that this is the money that will come in. But for businesses that have been in existence, they can tell you what has been coming in. So it's not that, so most businesses that are starting definitely will not have cash coming in.
Okay. To have the startup cash, what's your disposition towards local means of raising finance like the Isusu that we all know about, and other local means of financing?
Those are actually the cheapest ways of getting finance.
What's your disposition?
Because most times you're not paying any interest.
Okay.
So it's actually nice if businesses can form clusters. You know, so for instance, 10 businesses come together and you're like, okay, we can't afford the interest rate. So why don't we decide that, you know what, every other month we agree on a certain amount. So we agree on, let's say, 100,000 naira every month, and we're 10 businesses. So that means that at the end of every month, one business gets 1 million naira. But no interest. So you can see that you're saving quite all right, but you're having access to immediate cash without any interest being on it. So I don't see anything wrong with, you know, doing it. The only limitations you might have at times is the amount of money that you might be able to raise. Because if you have 10 people who cannot raise that 100,000, then you find out that you now have to start coming down to maybe 5,000, you know, things like that. But I think it's actually a very cheap way of actually raising finance.
What about the risk involved?
Everything in life has risks.
Okay.
And so that's why when you're going to go into that kind of agreement, it has to be due diligence. You understand? You have to know who you're dealing with. You have to know. Some people even go as far as saying, give us post-dated checks. Because, you know, it's actually a crime to actually give someone a third check. So you just find a way to just mitigate the risk. Because everything in life is a risk.
What are your final words to viewers, those that are watching you now, and I just want to hear some words of encouragement?
Be patient. Allow your business grow organically. There's nothing wrong in taking a loan once you know you have the cash, because sometimes businesses are also afraid to take loans, but there's nothing wrong once you know that you have positive cash flow. There's nothing wrong with taking a loan. Being an entrepreneur is very exciting. It can be a lot of work, but for the fact that you're nurturing a business idea and you're seeing it grow, it's really exciting. I'm proud to be Nigerian because there's so many awesome Nigerian entrepreneurs. We really have a lot of talented entrepreneurs. But I'll just tell us that, you know, think big, you know, but start little.
Oh, thank you very much. Think big, but start little. I've been speaking with Eseswa Henrietta Adeyemi. She's a serial entrepreneur, a management consultant. She's into publicity, mentorship, coaching, and building business plans. Thank you, madam, for honoring our invitation. We do hope we'll still have you in our studio some other time.
Definitely.
You'll agree with me that it's been quite an exciting and educative session on this episode. It's good you take advantage of all you've learned to start something and run with it. I bet you definitely get there. Don't forget, think big, start little. It's been Business Trends on NTA Channel 5, Abuja. Make it a date with us next week, same station, same time. You can also follow us on our social media platforms. Till then, I am Shikeola Ikpenaye saying goodbye.